I don't know what happened. I was supposed to take her to the Fireflies and walk away. You go halfway across the country with someone. She needed her immunity to mean something. Maybe I was starting to buy into that old cure business. Maybe I just wanted to do right by her. And then we made it. We found the Firefly. Because of her, they were actually going to make a cure. The only catch, it would kill her. Sweet Jesus.
Doctor?
What are you doing? I won't let you take her. This is our future. Think of all the lives we'll save.
Jesus Christ, Joel. What do you do?
Firstly, I just want to say that The Last of Us Part 2 just won 6 Golden Joystick Awards, and that's so fucking phenomenal and very well deserved. I truly hope the devs feel proud of what they've accomplished because good god, the game deserved those awards. Of course, there's gonna be those little mouth readers in the vocal minority complaining about how it's bought over or whatever, but the Golden Joysticks are literally decided off of player votes, so the people who are shitting on this game are just that, the vocal minority. Now, onto the video. When a character dies in a story, the death has to be justified. It has to make sense in the context of the story and the world, and it has to be fair and believable. If a character is killed off for no reason, there's no weight behind the death. The reasoning has to outweigh the suffering, essentially. It could be just because they needed to die for a substantial event to take place, like Gamora's death in Infinity War. Or they need to die so that the main character has some growth, like Uncle Ben for Peter. Or, as it is in Joel's case, they must die as a consequence for their actions. Now, Joel's death was expected by most. From the very first trailer released for the game, people knew. Speculation ran wild, and there was just too much symbolism in him walking away from the white light. Ellie wanted revenge. People thought it was because of Joel. We all just had this feeling that he was gone. The devs specified that we barely play as him, and the main character is Ellie. So adding up all these things led people to believe that he was dead. Yet, when it happened, when the game released and people found out he died, everyone exploded. Honestly, the death in itself wasn't a problem, but they argued that how he died was the problem. But this is where I need to say, Joel's death was justified. It was fair, even though it felt unfair. It was expected, it was reasonable, and it was deserved. Let me explain why. The first argument some used was against the idea that Joel would be friendly to a random stranger he found outside their settlement in Jackson. They argued that this isn't something Joel would do. Joel, the man who ran over an injured person because he didn't trust him, the man who lost all his faith in humanity, a broken man who had no love left in him. But they forget the entire point of the first game. That's the Joel before Ellie. That Joel is the Joel we started the first game as, but he grew. His growth was shown in the game itself. At the start, he didn't care about Ellie, she was just cargo. He was untrustworthy. He was ruthless. His caring nature died with Sarah. But through his journey with Ellie, he learned to love again. He learned how to feel. He remembered his fatherly instincts. He killed everyone in St. Mary's just to save Ellie because he loved her. He says to Ellie,
No matter what, You keep finding something to fight for.
So this empty man found her, and he fought for her. Pushing the explanation even further, this Joel has lived in Jackson for 5 years. Jackson, a place where they protect people who need it, where they save stragglers from infected when they go on patrol. They're not like David's hunters. They try to be good people, the closest thing to modern civilization in this post-apocalyptic world. So the fact that people argue that he wouldn't be benevolent to outsiders is beyond my understanding. They're not distrusting of everyone that comes through Jackson because they're trying to save humanity, not just get rid of it. Joel adopted this newer, more helpful lifestyle because that's how his new environment wanted to live. The people of Jackson often traded with other groups and protected those who needed the protection. There's always a level of skepticism, of course, but it's not always the first thing they think about. This is why it's fair that he saved Abby. He helped Abby because for the last 5 years, that's how they've been living in Jackson, protecting others and helping those in need. So from that standpoint, it makes sense that he would do it. This Joel is more relaxed. He's less tense than he was before and a lot older. Maybe a little slower, maybe a little less observant, but that's how it's supposed to be, right? People don't just stay the same way forever. People make mistakes. Sure, this mistake cost him his life, but what can we do? That's the way the world works. Another topic I want to touch upon is the fact that Joel was just not a good person. He did shitty things in his life, doing his best to survive. His past caught up with him and he faced the consequences of his actions. It's what he deserved and it's a fitting end to his arc. Joel was a bad person and he sacrificed a chance to save humanity just so he could save one girl that meant everything to him. The morality of that choice has been discussed ever since the last game released, but that's not what I want to talk about here. My point is, Joel deserved to die. Did we want him to? Of course not. But did he deserve it? Arguably, yes, he did. I know it feels unfair and it feels like we didn't have enough time with Joel, but that's just how it's meant to feel. Because that's how Ellie felt about him too. That's how Abby felt about her father. That's how Henry felt about Sam. How Joel felt about Tess. That's how the world works in this universe. There aren't really any happy endings. Where one person feels satisfaction for something they did, another person suffers in their stead. There's somewhat of a dichotomy between these two sides, the good and the bad, or rather the multitude of morally gray areas. They're different shades of gray, but nothing can be considered truly ethical. One good thing happens, one bad thing happens. There's a balance to the world of The Last of Us. Tess sacrifices her life so that Ellie and Joel can move on. Jerry wanted to sacrifice Ellie to save humanity. Abby kills Joel so that she can feel better about her father's death. Every action has a reaction. So, I feel that Joel's death was the right decision for Naughty Dog to take. They could have just pandered to their fans and given us another game with Joel and Ellie getting revenge on someone for something else or blah blah blah, but they didn't want to do that. Neil didn't want to tell that story, he wanted to tell this one. He wanted to express that your actions have consequences and that everything sucks sometimes, but that's okay, because at the end of the day, Ellie was able to move on. She was able to let go. She spared Abby because Abby spared her, because her last conversation with Joel was a good one. Joel died still believing in Ellie, still loving her, and Ellie lost so much time with him, but that little bit of hope in their final conversation together made the whole thing feel okay to me. It stung like a bitch when Joel died, and it made me so emotional, but it's okay. I moved on with Ellie, I grew to love Abby, and I understood why he died. I truly understood why it was necessary. That's all I have to say for this video. This video might be a little shorter than usual, but it's okay. That's all I really wanted to talk about. I'll be making more videos on more video games, and of course I will probably be touching on some movies, some TV shows, stuff like that. Just leave some recommendations in the comments and I'll look through them. I'll definitely be playing Cyberpunk when it releases. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. If you'd like to keep up with me, my socials are linked below, or you could join my Discord server to make everything easier. Consider subscribing if you're new, and click the notification bell so that you don't miss my uploads. Thank you for stopping by, don't forget to look for the light, and goodbye for now.